Hey everybody, it's Greg LaBeouf, and listen, I want to welcome you to another episode of Awaken, the Protect Our Within. And today I want to talk about one simple thing, and that is, what the hell does age have to do with it?
So the big question was this: what do good people do when a society's laws and institutions fail to keep them safe from aggression and violence? How do you get through a growing number of angry, hateful, aggressive people and still remain physically, mentally, and emotionally strong and positive? That was the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name is Greg LaBeouf, and welcome to Awaken the Protector Within.
Okay, everybody, let's just jump into this. I just recently got back from Toronto on the past weekend, and I was very blessed to be able to speak to the Compounding Pharmacists of Canada, their AGM that they held, their annual AGM. And they are an industry that is going through a lot of changes, a lot of hardships. They're amazing professionals that are men and women that are there to serve, to help people. But listen, let's face it, they're going through an opiate crisis. They are dealing every single day with people that are under the influence of chronic pain and depression and anxiety, and that gets expressed. And so they are dealing with people that are rude, inappropriate, aggressive, bullying, tormenting, you name it. But here's the thing, at the end of the presentation, inevitably I get these individuals that come up to me. And again, these are smart, driven, focused, passionate people. And this is in every industry that I speak to. And people are always asking me, hey, listen, do you do this for kids? Do you have a version of this for children? And listen, this is my answer to that. What the hell does age have to do with it? See, what out of any time that you ever hear my presentation, if you've attended our webinars, our whole goal in this is to create awareness, because control can only follow awareness. And here's what we are lacking desperately in our society today. We are lacking an awareness of the effects of aggression, violence, bullying, and tormenting. We have an epidemic going on. There are more people that are under the influence that are expressing through hostile, verbal, hostile, physical, emotional. They are tormenting, bullying, using aggression, using violence like a currency, and it is costing all of us. All of us. We just have to look at how many young people, young boys and girls, are turning to suicide at alarming ages of age 8, 9, and 10-year-old kids that are committing to suicide because of social aggression, because of bullying and tormenting. And if we think that those effects aren't there as we grow to teens or into our adulthood, you're wrong. The effects are the same. There are so many adults that commit suicide, that get spun into depression, into addictions because of the effects of bullying, aggression, violence, and tormenting. And here's the thing, what the hell does age have to do with it? You see, we are all wired the same way. If you've heard my presentation, there is nothing that you will hear me say that does not apply to the youth as it applies to adults. And I know right away, viscerally, people go, yes, but we have got to talk to our youth differently. I don't agree with that. You see, here's the thing. There is an age when they are too young to understand and learn, and our goal should not be to try to teach them about aggression and violence in a way where we are worried about whether they understand all of what is going on inside of them. You see, I have a 4-year-old. I do not try to explain to her how her physiology works, how her survival system actually operates, okay? Because she doesn't need to understand. The same way, she has an iPad, and at times, we let them play games on their iPad. We let them interact with that technology, all that type of stuff. She watches some TV from time to time, but I don't try to explain to her how electricity powers those things. I don't try to explain to her the technology behind computers and her iPad. She doesn't need to know that at this point. She needs to understand how to use that responsibly, which means understanding that there's a certain amount of time limit that's healthy for us. There's certain ways that we can use it that benefit us. And I'm doing the exact same things with her when it comes to her understanding her survival systems and understanding her responses to, when somebody may be rude to her or say things, or when she's upset and her feelings and her emotions. But at that age, she doesn't have to understand all of the inner workings. So let's drop a certain part of the age category here. Okay, so what age are we really talking about? You know what we're talking about? We're probably talking about kids that get to babysitting age. They get to about 12, 13 years old. Now, can you do this with 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds? Of course you can. But here, let's just make kind of a clear distinction here. If we're talking about a 12-year-old young boy or young girl from 12 years old and up, give or take that year or so, from 12 and up, there is nothing that I say in my presentations, in the way that I say it, that they cannot hear and that they cannot understand. Here, let me just back this up with a little bit of proof. Because if you've never heard my presentation, then you don't necessarily know. And you might think, well, listen, no, there could be some things there that they shouldn't hear or that they wouldn't understand because they're not old enough to understand all of the different technobabble and the things like vasoconstriction and stuff. Let me just break it down this way. If you're an adult and you're listening to this, if you've never heard my presentation, if I actually talk to you like an adult, like how I know this information, and hit you with the technological terms and hit you with all of that technobabble, you wouldn't understand it either. The same way when my doctor has to tell me about something that they want to do, a procedure or some test that they're running on me or something that they're looking for in my blood or whatever it is like that, I actually want my doctor to explain it to me like he would explain it to my 9-year-old daughter, because then I'll understand it. You see, I understand, I get that. My mechanic, I actually took automotives in high school. I understand how cars work, but not today. When I take my car in, the mechanic has to explain to me what's going on or what's happened or what computer chip went and what that thing does or whatever that. I say, hey, just break it, give it to me. English, please. Don't hit me with your techno-babble. My point is simple. There is no industry out there where you have somebody who is an expert in it that can actually talk to somebody who is a non-expert, adult or child, and just explain it the way that they know it. Because nobody else would ever understand. We all must be taught as if we are children, young adults, let's say. That is the best way and the easiest way to learn. So over 25 years, I've gotten very good at actually taking concepts that are very deep. Concepts that are, you have to spend a lot of hours researching to understand how things are all interconnected and how the physiology works and how the biochemistry is and all this different stuff. You'd have to really spend a lot of time researching and study this. It's not just a matter of saying, oh, I'm intelligent and I'm smart and I'm well-spoken. It doesn't matter. If you don't understand the background, if you don't understand the technical jargon, you're going to get lost. So see, that's all we do, is to take something like aggression and violence and the effects that it has on us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and how it hurts us and how it breaks us and how we are set up to fail. And we've been set up to fail. We are on the X. We have to take all of these concepts and I have to explain them to grown adults. I explain it to them the same way I'd explain it to a 12-year-old. Now here's the other thing I want to throw on top of this. When we started looking at doing this for schools as a set program, not just, yes, we work as a set program to go into schools, I started to think about, okay, listen, what are the challenges that high school students are facing these days? Grade 10, 11, 12, high school students. What is that? About 15 years old. You're 15 going into grade 10 to about 17, 18, obviously, when you graduate. So 15 years old, turning 16, actually, when you're going into high school, really. So you're 15, turning 16, going on to 18. And I looked at the challenges that they were directly facing, and guess what? The challenges that they're facing are not the challenges I thought that they would be facing. They are facing adult problems, very intense adult problems. Okay, so guess what? We went backwards and we said, what about the junior highs? The junior high students, okay, they are facing, so what is that, like 12, 13, 14, 15 in there? They are facing the problems that I thought high school students were facing. And now maybe that doesn't shock some of you, but I don't have teenagers yet. So I was like, man, we got to be in the junior highs, because here's the thing. Junior high kids, the 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old young boys and girls, they are living life raw. What do I mean by that? It's hitting them, all the experiences, the pressures, the challenges, the physical, the mental, the emotional. They are dealing with it, all of it, in a raw, uncensored form. They're not living in Barney world. In junior high, they are facing some real pressures that if I think back, maybe I faced them and I don't remember it, but I think, Jesus, I didn't have to worry about this type of pressure. I didn't have to deal with these types of social situations and these types of intense situations. I don't think I dealt with that till I was practically out of high school or out of high school. Do you know what I mean? The high school kids, they're battling things that, I didn't face, I don't think, till I was in my late 20s. It's changed. So guess what? When it comes to aggression, violence, and bullying and tormenting and all of the ways that we are set up to fail, we have got to stop talking to 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old young men and women, young boys and girls. We got to stop treating them we got to stop Disney-fying everything. You know what they respect and you know what they want? When somebody talks to them real, in the language that they hear. And I'm not saying that I use some profanity as in the way that I speak, and it comes out because there's certain points that I make an impact, and there's certain points when I'm talking about aggression and violence where that is what you are going to hear, and that elicits a feeling. And so it behooves me, and it behooves the people that I'm training when I use certain languages and when I bring, like I am right now, a certain amount of emotion and intensity to what I'm saying. One of the biggest, compliments that I got in Toronto that I tend to get most times I speak is people coming up and saying, listen, it is your passion that moves us. Why is my passion there and why it moves people is because I know how bad this hurts. I know how bad it hurts to be under the effects, to feel the pain and suffering from aggression and violence. And it's like, this just drives me even more to look at it and say, we got kids as young as 12 years old, 11 years old, 10 years old that are feeling this and suffering. And those emotions are real. They're not run through a filter built by Disney. That's not how they're living their lives. That's not how they're seeing their parents live their lives. You have kids that are 9, 10 years old that are living in houses where there is violence and aggression and debasing and dehumanizing behavior towards them, towards the other spouse, towards their siblings. And there's no filter for that. And that is causing a reaction in them, and that is hurting them, and everything they believe, their paradigms, their thoughts, the things that they have been taught are set them up to fail, and it is amplifying the effects. And it is causing more victimization. And so all of this, what I wanted to share today is what the hell does age have to do with it? Because if you go younger than that, if we stay with my cutoff, if we go under 12, really 10, if you go under the age of 12 or under the age of 10, then we need parents to step up. More parents come up to me and want me to have a program or want me to teach this to their 7-year-olds and their 6-year-old and their 4-year-old and their 8-year-olds. And here's the thing. I'm happy to be able to put something together to try to share with them that age. But the greatest thing is for the parents to step up, take action, and actually sit through the presentation themselves. So many parents want to buy a program from me or send their children to a program that they themselves would never attend or haven't attended. What good is it? How are you supposed to support this in your house? We are raising the next generation of victims. Sending your child to a course is great. You know what's phenomenal? When you come with them. So that you can start to change the paradigms that we're being taught that set them up for victimization. So that you can become aware of what the tripwires to trauma are. The little tiny false belief patterns that were instilled in you through no fault of your own. Our beliefs and how we are set up to fail, we have all received an unwanted inheritance of everybody else's and society's thoughts, opinions, beliefs. They have been given to us, whether you wanted them or not, and they have become our truths. So we can't just take the 4, 5, 6 years old and start to change their paradigms. We can, they're young enough, it's easier to do, but the environment that they're around, the influencers, the parents, the teachers, the coaches, the movies, the books, all of that stuff, they are getting saturated with that every single day, and it won't last because what is impressed will get expressed, and they're exposed to that. So what we need is to change not only the young people's paradigms and to give them and impart new skills for them to set them up for victory instead of setting them up to be the victim. What we need is to change in their environment the influences that they have. So we need to change what they're reading, what they're listening to, what they're watching, what their parents are saying and reinforcing, and what their coaches are saying and reinforcing. Do you see how we have to have a movement of this? To get the younger than 10, you have to have a movement. You have to have parents that have stepped up. You have to have parents that have an implementation and action mindset. That when they see a problem and somebody shows them a better, easier way, they act. They don't hesitate. They act instantaneously and they make change. That's how we save the young ones. How we get the 12, 13, and 14, well, now we can start to break them free on their own. Now what we need somebody in their life that is willing to tell them the things that nobody else has invested and bothered to learn, or that they have, never bothered to, they don't know how to be free from it. And that is where it comes back to what the hell does age have to do with this? The only thing that I would ever change talking to a group of 12, 13, or 14-year-olds versus a group of 35, 45, and 50-year-olds is I would never change the how I'm explaining it, because I'm already explaining it at a level where kids can understand it so that adults can understand it, is just the simple stories. Facts tell, stories sell. Change up some of the stories so that the kids can relate to it. But here's the shocker for most adults. Your kids are already relating to some pretty adult stories and some pretty adult situations. The stories that I need to share with them aren't the Disney-fied stories that most people would expect. They're the real hard, sometimes very graphic, hard to listen to, but even worse to experience type of stories, and they're living it right now. That's what we mean when we say that we have people living on the X. So listen, at the end of the day, I want everyone to take away from this podcast one thing. Age has nothing to do with it. As a society, we are on the X more than we've ever been before because we have more people around us that are expressing because of under the depression, under the influence of depression and fear and anxiety and stress. And it is happening at home, and it is happening at work, and it is happening in our social lives. It doesn't matter if your kids don't work and they're out on the soccer fields and the hockey rinks and they're out playing and living life and they're out at recess. They are experiencing life, and it is unedited and uncensored. And it is the same for you as adults. We are on the X. The difference with adults is you're harder to shift because you've been exposed to the influence of stress and anxiety and depression and the false beliefs, and you are stuck with your stories about how aggression and violence should affect you, or how, and I could just about to go on a rant there, and I'm going to pull on the reins on that one. So listen, age has nothing to do with this. We've got to learn how to break free. We've got to learn how to shift the paradigms. We've got to move off that X. All right, everybody, listen, I'm going to end it there. Please do us a favor, share this message, comment, rate us on iTunes. If you like this, give us 5 stars. Share this with somebody who you know this will help them, that needs to hear this information. And always, any questions, comments, concerns, please reach out to us. We're here to serve. It is an honor, and I deeply appreciate everybody who's listening to this podcast and helping us get this going as we dial this in and find our voice and move forward with this. And until next time, everybody, please stay safe, stay ready, and remember, off the X, it's only one step away.
Want to awaken your protector within? If so, then head to awakentheprotectorwithin.ca and get your free Off the X training today.